You're listening to iCannabisRadio.com.
Hello and welcome to In the Lab with Genifer. Of course, my great co-host, Jill Amaro.
Hello, everybody.
We have a couple of very, very special guests. Last week, you were introduced to her, Mandy Stanley from the Realm of Caring.
Hey.
And
just making funny faces at me.
What?
And Page Figi,
Hello.
who has been on a while ago on a different show. And we are going to dive in deep with Dravet syndrome. Basically, this show is going to talk about pediatric cannabis therapy and hopefully some parents out there or people out there that have sick children will have some place to go. So, but before we start, I really have to talk about something. I got a call from a woman, a very sick woman, last week, and she was talking about how she had purchased some edibles, and she purchases so many at a time that they give her a discount, and these are 300 milligram edibles that are, I don't know, about the three times the size of Tootsie Rolls, I would say. And they're called chews, and I'm not going to talk about who the edible maker is. But anyway, she called me and started talking to me, and she felt like these edibles were not working. And she said she had seen, I believe she saw my postcard, or somehow she got CanLab's information. And so I started to educate her. And of course, the first question I asked her is, do you know if they test? And she said, what do you mean test? And I said, well, you know, CanLabs and other labs can test for the cannabinoid count. And if you are buying an edible and the company does not test, I have no idea how you're going to match the milligrams on the label. There is no way. Edible companies, if they do not test the batch of oil or butter or whatever they're using, there is absolutely no way that you can tell what is in your edible, okay? So I educated this lady. She is super, super sweet, but clearly has never been taught anything about edibles. And I can tell you that we talked for a long time, and then I had to go. She called me back a few days later, and I'm sorry, I offered to give her a free test. She's on disability, and she pays so much for these edibles that, you know, she couldn't pay. And I said, you know what? I would be happy to pay for or do the edible test for free. So she calls me a couple of days later, and she's scared. She doesn't want to test the edible. She's afraid that company is going to find out she tests it, and then she's not going to be able to get edibles. I mean, it was horrible. And I explained to her that there are many edible companies out there, many that would help her out and go the extra mile for her. After some conversation, you know, of course, she said, well, how can I trust you? And I said, well, we've been in business 3 years. My mission statement is always to provide safe and effective medicine through testing for patients and now adult users. And I said, I would never say your name, say the edible company name. This is between you and me, but you really need to know what's in your edible because you are paying good money for that. And I gave her, of course, the analogy of if you bought Vicodin, and you paid, I don't know, without insurance, hundreds of dollars, and then you found out there was no Vicodin in. I mean, it's awful. So finally, she agreed. She is maybe 100 pounds, hooked up to oxygen. And so I got the samples from her, and she gave me one that was an old batch because she's had problems with them before. And then she gave me one that's supposedly the new batch. And again, there's supposed to be 300 milligrams in these edibles. So we get them tested. I come into the lab this morning. I get the results. And in the old 300 milligram edible, there was 16 milligrams. 16. Disgusting. This woman is paying good, hard disability money for medicine, thinks she's getting 300 milligrams a day because she cuts it up in pieces. She's getting 16 milligrams.
So when they claim that it's 300,
Uh-huh.
are they, what do you think's happening? I'm just curious because we had this similar problem. We first started with my daughter, my 5-year-old at the time.
Right.
And do you think they're lying? Do you think they're putting less in to make more money? Do you think they aren't testing at all?
Oh, they're not testing. There's no way. And that's the problem. Are these people, we put the cart before the horse. We're in a new industry, and they never had to test, and it's hard for them to start testing. Now, I get that it's been a hard road. Everyone thinks that there's a cannabis money tree, and we all suck off of it, and that's totally false. A lot of people have come and gone. A lot of people have put their whole life savings into this and lost it. So I get that. But it is the cost of doing business for edible makers. And there is absolutely no way you can say how many milligrams of active THC or CBD are in an edible. So in this case, it's probably a little of everything. Now, the company showed good faith by bringing her a new batch, but again, told her they would test. They didn't. And when she asked them which solvent, they didn't give her an answer. They said an organic solvent.
They didn't give her an answer?
No, they said an organic solvent. And I said, okay, well, that's a red flag right there.
Yeah.
So we tested the new edible, and the new edible was 96 milligrams. So better than 16, but not 300.
Yeah.
Well, the state of Colorado medical marijuana rules to state that you cannot make false claims. And given the fact she's scared to even talk to you about this, I don't know that calling MMED would be an option for her. But that's one thing we need to start doing, is that it is completely against the regs to make unvalidated claims. So if you make a potency claim of 300 milligrams, you have to test. So there's no requirements to test, but if you're going to make a claim, you have to have validation. And so that's completely against the rules.
Already, but people just evidently don't care about the rules. And so now this poor lady who buys a lot at a time completely has been getting ripped off. And I called her today to break the news to her. She's bawling to me on the phone. I don't know what to do. They have an outstanding, they owe her product right now. And I told her, I said, you need to call the MMED. Absolutely. There is nothing. And I said, there are plenty of edible companies out there that will help you out and stand behind their product. But again, people do not buy edibles unless they test, and they need to show you a test result.
And those should be made available to anybody who wants to see them at any point.
That's
and
right.
Every batch tests so different, whether it's an edible, a concentrate, and people have the right to see what they're putting in their bodies.
That's exactly right.
Well, and it looks bad. It just looks bad. It sets everything back for the people who are trying to do the right thing and the patients who need milligram.
Right.
A
Like
number.
your child.
A number
which,
on it.
Which we'll get into because I remember going back and the Facebook group and they had that CBD syrup on
Yeah,
there.
we tried that.
Yeah,
We
no.
had it tested.
Yeah. No CBD in it. So this has got to stop, and patients and adult users out there that will be able to buy in 2014. It's very important to get yourself educated because there are plenty of companies out there that make great edibles and products that are tested. So
Well, and that makes me wonder about her dispensary too. It's their job to educate the patient.
It
and
is.
If they can't validate that the company's testing, they shouldn't be carrying that product. And she should have had more clue than none about edibles and solvents because it is the dispensary's job to educate their patients. And so
Absolutely.
she should probably find a new dispensary as well.
yes, and I explained that to her, and but anyway, enough with my rant. But that just happened before I came over here, and it's just heartbroken. I mean, she's crying to me on the phone, and it's just a sad situation. So anyway, we have such exciting news, and so
Yay, we get to finally tell.
we've been talking about a so-called contest that we're having. Of course, lovely Jill has been thinking up 3 questions for every show, and we're going to get those. I know we keep saying this, but we're going to get them posted on the website. And I believe we're going to end the contest the end. I think we're on the air April 1st, aren't we?
Yes.
So maybe we'll read it on April 1st. We haven't decided that yet, but Jill is going to tell you what you can win.
So, if you are the first person to respond to the questions posted, which April 1st will be the last posting, you will win an all-expense paid trip out to the Cannabis Cup here in lovely Denver, 2 nights hotel, airfare credit. So, if you can manage to find cheap enough airfare, you can bring a friend. And you will be live on the radio with us April 20th at 4:20.
Yes.
So, to talk about your wonderful experience and trip. If the winner does happen to be from Colorado, we will figure something way fun out instead of that airline credit. Although our producer is not eligible to
Yeah.
win. Sorry.
Unfortunately, nobody in the industry, in the Colorado industry, is eligible to win, and I'm so sorry. But anybody outside of Colorado in the industry can win, and then anybody in Colorado can win. But this is very exciting. The reason it's kind of a travel voucher is just in case it is somebody in Colorado. That person will get something super exciting instead of obviously the plane tickets because you're already here. And again, 2 nights at the Marriott downtown and 2 tickets to the Cannabis Cup. You'll fly in Friday night. You'll fly in Friday night, and then Saturday, there's the cup. We'll be on the radio, like Jill said, from 4 to 6. And then Sunday, the cup, and then you fly home.
I'm not sure that will be coherent, but we will be on the radio.
We will be on the radio, but we're not sure.
Well, and we have to thank our amazing
Yes.
sponsors for
Yes.
this trip, which is Blue Sage Microbes, the Clinic,
Yeah.
Can Labs.
And Extraction Tech.
Woohoo!
So Blue Sage is Microbes is taking care of the airfare. The clinic has been great in donating the hotel room or sponsoring the hotel room. And then Extraction Tech, who makes extraction machines that are compatible with both butane and propane. They are throwing in 2 tickets. So it's going to be a great trip. And for those of you that don't know, this is the 3rd Cannabis Cup in Colorado. Of course, the first 2 were the Medical Cannabis Cup. This one is the first since legalization. So anybody over the age of 21 can go to the Cannabis Cup and consume. Then, of course, if you have a red card, you're welcome. And then, of course, if you don't smoke at all, you're welcome to come and educate yourself about
18 and up if you have your red card.
Well, I understand. Or red card holders. Yeah. So anyway, with that said, we'll have to take a break and we'll get back to it in just a second. Blue Sage Microbes unveils the ultimate in superior soil, Ideal Soil, a 16-quart bag of the best growing soil ever engineered. Superior plant health and vitality is a direct result of the structure and chemistry of your soil. How good is your growing soil? Is your growing soil really balanced? How do you know? Well, Blue Sage Microbes has a newly designed growing soil that is the most advanced growing medium ever offered for cannabis cultivation. This is the only brand in the marketplace that provides growers with an ideal soil structure designed to work specifically with their cultivation systems. You will have your best grow results ever. Call now for a special introductory offer, 888-959-8551, or log on to bluesagemicrobes.com and experience a new level in growing. That's 888-959-8551.
Tired of dispensary hopping? Trying to find quality meds? Look no further and get to know Greenworks. Our shops are stocked with over 20 strains of organically grown meds, including R4, the highest tested CBD strain in Colorado. Yes, we back up our quality with testing. While Greenworks offers only the highest quality meds, we don't believe in high prices, with eighths ranging from $20 to $40 and ounces capped at $175. With 2 centers in Denver and 1 in Glenwood Springs, we're likely closer than you think. Call 303-647-5210 to find the location nearest you.
All right, and we're back. So, I want to get into now the meat of this radio show, and that is kids. I know that at the task force meetings, that was a big concern for parents that didn't understand or were educated about cannabis, which I'm sure that was you, because you are not Paige. I'm speaking of. Paige is not a cannabis user, and neither is her family or anything. So let's go back to the beginning, the very beginning, and how you heard about cannabis oil or CBD oil and everything.
I heard of a parent in California, Jason David, and some parents in Canada using it with their children with Dravet syndrome. And
was that online or?
Yeah, we were friends on Facebook. There's not a lot of kids with Dravet.
Right.
A couple 100,000 maybe in the world diagnosed. So we know each other. And then the ones that are actually online. And so Jason had reached the end of his rope. He started about a year before.
And that's Jaden.
Jaden.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
right.
And to great results, trying to get off multiple medicines, and he really had nothing left to try. And he's in a legal state, so he tried. I think he was the first Dravet child that I know of, probably the first. There were some kids in Canada with different epilepsies, some children that were using it. And when we reached the end of our line, that's what we turned to. We had nothing left. So it wasn't a big stretch to try that. And I live in Colorado. So then we went about, our little journey.
Your little and just go ahead and explain Dravet a bit and what kind of what Charlotte's journey's been before.
So Charlotte is 6 now. When she was a baby, and Dravet syndrome is a genetic mutation. So when they're children, Charlotte was 3 months old. She was born normal. Everything was normal. She has a twin, and they progressed normally, walked and talked and did everything the same day. But when she was 3 months, she had her first seizure that we saw, and it was.
So they're not born with it.
They are born with it.
Okay, they are, but you just don't know.
It didn't present until...
Really?
Yeah, so
okay.
the first... looking back, now that I know what these seizures, the smaller ones look like, she was having these smaller seizures.
Okay.
In the womb, she was having seizures. And they said, no, it's just twins. You just are feeling 2 children, 2 babies. And I know, now to this day, I can remember the myoclonics and the tonic-clonics in the womb. But the first seizure we saw, she was 3 months old, and it's a status seizure. Status is a seizure that doesn't stop on its own. It's 30 minutes or longer. And even sometimes the drugs don't work. So, everyone's an ER trip. At that point, we knew she had some, she had 2 or 3 by 6 months, 5 seizures, something like that. We knew she had epilepsy. It wasn't just a one-time event. Mm-hmm. And then about 1.5 to 2 years old, we started to notice she was regressing, whether it was the course of the syndrome or whether it was the cause from all these status seizures. She started to lose skills and cognition and that sort of thing. And at 2.5, we were diagnosed with Dravet syndrome. And so it's really...
So it took a while.
Yeah. Well, I just was hearing about a woman who was, I think, 27. Her son or daughter was 27 when they were diagnosed. So it's very rare, and it's a blood test. It's very expensive, and so it's not their first line. It's very rare syndrome, so it's not the first thing they would check for. But yeah, so that's how we found out about 2.5. And we didn't know what it was. I mean, for years we didn't know what. We tried many different medicines. Many of the medicines you try for Dravet, the first line drugs you try with normal epilepsy are contraindicated with Dravet, and they work in the sodium channel. And she has a sodium channel mutation, so they instantly this drug it's just very obvious that she should not be on this drug.
Okay.
And then there's fewer drugs to use with Dravet syndrome.
Okay.
And
because it is that you said calcium?
Yeah, the sodium channel.
The sodium channel.
And
okay.
a lot of the first line epilepsy drugs are sodium channel blockers. And so you would see real quick that it is a horrible drug for your child. So that's where we started. There's diets, and so you go through these drugs. It's an intractable epilepsy. It's very severe, intractable. And you go through, you may have a drug that works for a couple months or a couple years, but eventually the seizures will cycle back and start again. And that sounds negative to people who are in a happy place, but it just seems like things eventually stop working. And so that's why these children cycle through all the choices pretty quickly in their life, and then the second time around, and then sometimes a third time around on the same drugs that didn't work the first time. And so we had cycled through them all, and that's when we started, when we were done with, really every option possible. There was a veterinary drug that I can try.
Really?
And I have to go to get it compounded from a veterinary doctor. And I said, let me just try this next. And so Jason really led the path for a lot of the parents who are starting now.
That's fantastic. Yeah. So tell me the conversation between you and your husband about, because you don't use cannabis, you never have. Is it just like any other talk with drugs, or?
I think with these intractable, untreatable epilepsies, you're already searching for weird, acupuncture, and you're already searching for these sort of different therapies than pharmaceuticals. So it wasn't that much of a stretch. Matt works out of the country. He was in Afghanistan, and he was pushing for it. He's like, let's just try this. Can't we just try this? And I said, I think I need to tackle this journey when you're not deployed, when you're home. This is going to be a big deal. And Charlotte was a train wreck. She was a mess that last year. And so, it's just me holding her seizing all day long. We go to the ER and she just keeps seizing. So we just were dealing with that at home. And it was just a lot to take on.
And you have 2 other kids.
I have 2 other kids, her twin and her older brother. And it was just, we were the youngest kid in Colorado. I know there's children, but there were teenagers in Colorado who are using cannabis. And so I was the youngest parent, the youngest child to try this in the state. And there wasn't a sort of a network for CBD to get medicine, to get CBD. So it was a big undertaking. I said, let me just exhaust her on this last drug, make sure we've maxed it, and come back, come off if we need to. And then I'll try, which is a huge mistake in retrospect. Really? Because you don't want to wait until things are at their worst.
You do not.
Because
how
fixable
cannabis.
Is that?
Right.
Even it seems so harmless. It should be the first line first of all. I get that. But what I'm saying is maybe we shouldn't wait until it's out of control to try and control this, because I don't know that, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Everyone's trying this as their last resort.
Yes.
And I don't know how stoppable that pattern is once it's begun.
I see what you're talking
You know
about.
what I mean?
Yes,
The
yes, I
damage
totally
that's
do.
done after the seizures.
Yeah.
Why not try some?
Seizures beget seizures. So the more they have, the more they're going to have.
Right.
Because, the propaganda is so strong that people feel like since you go to a doctor and he says, take this, that it's okay, So
that it's working on these last chance cases at all, I think is amazing, because they're really, at that point, very hard to treat.
For you, looking at CBD, how in your mind was that different from all of these other toxins than you were already trying? Why was there why was marijuana so much different? than all of these other pharmaceutical medications?
After she was
No,
using it?
before you, like when you were trying to decide, and we're still like, I don't know, let's try this last
It
one.
was so unknown. It was very unknown, which some of the drugs she was on are also very unknown and very untested on children,
Weren't
as
you
it
guys
is.
bringing in drugs from Europe and
Yeah, so
everywhere,
she was on
just
drugs from
try
Canada.
everything.
Yep. Most of these kids are on a Canadian drug and a French drug together. They work together. And we haven't tried the French drug because she failed the other two, that it doesn't work alone. Or most people think it doesn't work alone. It just kind of brings up the toxicity of the other two drugs, and we failed them. So we couldn't try that French drug. But yeah, they're on drugs not in the U.S., tested here. So even the drugs that she was on in the U.S. are tested on children. They're pretty new, it's pretty slim, and they're pretty dangerous. So I don't know, it seemed like a safe option, but yet it was just so new that it wasn't the first thing I would jump to. But people mentioned it to me along the way over the years.
Did they?
Just a drop here and a drop there, and I thought, I don't know. I don't know a single soul. I've never heard of a single thing. And then Jason came along, and you have to hear something 3 times before it
Sure. Well,
settles.
especially with your kid, and
Yeah.
especially with something so, I mean, obviously cannabis isn't new, but certainly
Yeah.
the oils that the realm of caring's making is very new. The
Well,
CBD
and
oils.
you want your doctor. It's scary. You have a kid and you think everything's fine, and then you realize, okay, I have this kid that's now going to have to see specialists at children. We fly to Chicago to see her doctor, and we had to come to Denver to children's hospitals, and so now you have a kid whose hospital is a children's hospital. People are coming out with their heads cut open, and okay, and then you're thinking, okay, and you just want a doctor to come along and say, we got this. Just come on in, we've got this. Just we'll take care of you, and it doesn't
Never
work like that.
happened.
And then you ditch all the pharmas that haven't worked, and then you're now trying CBD. It's just kind of lonely out there and scary to think.
Sure.
There isn't a doctor saying, like Shackelford and my marijuana, medical marijuana doctors, but you're not in the arms of,
Well, in that surgery where they separate the membrane and
Right,
that,
corpus
that's
colostomy.
huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
There's a surgery that if pharmas aren't working, they'll go in and they'll separate a membrane in their head to try and stop the seizures.
It helps the seizures. So if you're having right side seizures originate on the right side,
Yeah.
it'll stop the sides from talking to each other.
What's it called again?
Corpus colostomy.
That's right.
So a lot of kids
Yeah.
will have that, but Dravet isn't
And Pete
generally a
will do that
surgical
before
candidate.
trying cannabis.
Yeah,
See, I know, but it's the 80 years of propaganda.
Right.
And that's why we're on the show right now. And, everybody I talk to about why I do this, it's the Dravet kids is the number one reason. I mean, I just couldn't believe it.
And do you understand why, though? I don't know that it's just that it's working for Dravet, but I think why it's Dravet first, because we'll see these people coming in later, other disorders, other syndromes. It's just that it's so untreatable. We have nothing left. I mean, it's so bad. Or we were on 7 drugs at one time, all doing the same thing. They're all seizure drugs, just 7 a day, and maxed out. And she was 2, 1 and 2, and it's just, I think that's why people come from the Dravet world to the CBD, is because we've reached, or we know, if we haven't reached the end of the rope, we're going to hit that place.
For sure.
And maybe some of the other epilepsies are manageable. They're still going to seize, but it's not,
So the
quite so
first
severe.
time, so what happened the first time you gave Charlotte, actually, we're going to go to a break first.
Okay.
And then I know, but let's just go to a break now. All right. We'll be right back.
Cannapunch is a delicious and effective medical marijuana beverage proudly made right here in Colorado. Each bottle is freshly infused with 100% pure flower extract from the highest grade marijuana plants available today. Using proprietary extraction methods, every bottle of Cannapunch is consistently and reliably infused with an exact milligram dosage that you can count on to relieve your symptoms each and every time. Cannapunch is delicious. There's never any medicine-y taste. We use only 100% cannabis flowers. No trim or byproducts are ever used in Cannapunch. It does not require refrigeration and comes in convenient, resealable multi-dose bottles, from 60 milligrams to 200 milligrams. We have drinks with dosage that works best for you. Canapunch is available in a variety of delicious flavors like black cherry, watermelon, pineapple mango, and blue raspberry. And we now have strain-specific beverages available just for you. Canapunch is delicious, convenient, consistent, and effective. Give it a try and experience the Canapunch difference.
The chocolatiers at Incredibles are dedicated to crafting the finest chocolate from high-quality ingredients to ensure the greatest possible medicated edibles in the world. Consistency and quality are top priority. Lab testing on each and every batch. Rick and Josh have been making non-medicated chocolates for years for such retail outlets as Whole Foods and Vitamin Cottage. Today, we are focused on crafting our award-winning medicated Incredible chocolate bars. We are professional bakers, and we believe food should be made from scratch. We guarantee your satisfaction. Have an incredible day.
I'm Gary Johnson, and you're listening to iCannabis Radio, and I want to say, talk it up, Colorado.
All right. So, again, the last question I was asking Paige is, what was it like the first time you gave Charlotte the CBD oil?
She went 7 days without a seizure, and she was having 300 a week at that time. And she was having, some weeks would be 200, some would be 400. About 300 a week, and she was having a very bad 6 months. There was 6 months of hundreds a week, and these are grand mal, In between the grand mals was status, non-convulsive status. So she was just lying in my arms, just drooling and staring and twitching and screaming or laughing or just not a human being, not even,
So, what was the oil? Because I know now it's in capsules, is it? But what was it like when you first have it?
We hadn't met the Stanleys yet.
Oh, you hadn't met the Stanleys. Okay.
So I had just
put in her
made
mouth?
phone calls. I just made phone calls. I found a high CBD, low THC ratio strain in Denver, R4.
Right.
Had it tested. And then I had my friend who I knew how to make edibles, that sort of thing. She was starting a business. And I said, can you make this for my daughter? And so she made her an oil, just heated, decarboxylated the plant, dried it, and did, ground it up. I don't know the process.
Did something special.
Put it into olive oil. I had that tested.
Olive oil, okay.
And then I started at, I just kind of gained bits and pieces of everything I could find from everyone I knew and started really slow. And she had right away she had 7 days without a single seizure.
Were you just waiting like, oh my God,
I was thinking,
what is going on?
I had gone so long with her. We had signed a DNR, a do not resuscitate. I mean, I thought she was going to die. I mean, I really, I knew it was going to happen. I just didn't know when. And I thought, I'll just try this. I'll throw it to the wind and I'll just try this. And she didn't have a seizure in a week. And I think after it's 21 days that something becomes routine in the human psyche. It was just so routine for me. I thought, there's no way. This is a fluke. I thought it was a fluke. I just couldn't believe. And since that time, the seizures came back after that. On the 8th day, she had a 2, I think, 1 or 2. And then the 9th day, they came back, and then I upped the dose. And it just kind of kept going, down slowly. So we'd have peaks and valleys, but it never went back to that number a week. And it's been a year.
Again.
So we're 13 months in. Yay, Charlie.
That's incredible. With no pharmaceuticals.
So then a month later, she came off her last drug. We were weaning a drug at the time. She's off 1 year off of all pharmaceuticals, and Dravet kids aren't off pharmaceuticals. It's very
She's
very
the only
rare.
child in the world off all pharmaceuticals.
I think there's a couple. So we have a pharmacy-free Dravet group, a secret group on Facebook. There's like 4 of us on there, and 2 of us I think are pharmacy-free. So it's not a common thing. There's a couple out there probably, but it's not very common. Everyone's trying for that.
Sure.
And we wouldn't not have been able without this, without her. The next thing was induce a coma, and just you can stop the seizures. I mean, there's a way to stop seizures, but at what quality of? I mean, you have to balance at what quality of life.
And that's the one thing. Like the drugs were just making her. I mean, she had no life.
It's sad, and they do work. I mean, there's you do need some of this stuff, and they do work for some kids. And I don't want to just bash pharmaceuticals.
Sure.
But we had exhausted.
Okay,
it was
we'll do
done. Yeah.
We'll take care of that, right, Jill?
Yes.
Yeah, it was.
Oh my
it was
God.
pretty awesome to see that.
How many average seizures does she have now?
She has one every 7 to 10 days, one tonic-clonic. at night in her sleep. She's not falling. So that's her pattern. She seems to have a higher seizure tempo than most kids. It's not one a year or one every 2 months. She has a lot of seizures. So one a week, we're very happy with.
Sure.
That started about 6 months in. It went down, down, down from 300 a week, down, down, down to 6 months in. We really leveled out to, 5 a week, and then now we're at 1. And that's been months and months and months. Yeah.
And so what is her dose of CBD a day?
Can we talk about that? Is that...
Sure.
Okay. Well, I don't want to, make suggestions. This is just what
No,
works
no,
for
no,
us,
again,
but-
and we're not doctors.
And we're just, everybody's different.
Just,
But again,
I'm curious.
Cannabis
So-
is hit or... Yeah.
So she takes what we found is working is, and I don't know if this is how it works. Maybe we need 300 times the amount we're on, but with the ratio, we want to keep the THC at a certain level. So right now she's on a 24-to-1 ratio, CBD to THC is the plant, Charlotte's Web, and she takes 3 milligrams CBD per pound of body weight per day. And she weighs about 43 pounds.
Okay.
And that's what she takes per day. I divide it into 2 doses. So she takes like 60 milligrams
And is that
per dose.
Now, is that capsule or oil?
It's an oil.
Yeah, actually, Paige and one other patient are the only 2 patients that we do a dilution for.
Okay.
Based
Because I know
on-
you said you were doing
Yeah,
capsules
we do
now.
capsules and we do it
She can't
undiluted that way.
swallow.
Okay.
But for 2 patients, we do a dilution. Charlotte being one of them.
Okay.
So
let's go back to how that happened. So are you on a regimen with the realm? So first, how did you meet the realm of caring? How did that
Sean Moore, Chaz's dad. I contacted him through his son's website. He's an it's not epilepsy. It's like a
Muscular
diaphragmatic
dystrophy, isn't
flutter.
it?
Well, it's like
it's
it's
Yeah.
like this. His
Yeah.
diaphragm sort of
starts-
seizes.
yeah.
Okay.
So he's been using it for a long time. He's a teenager, Chaz. And so Sean is great. He's real, he got me in touch with all these people. Every phone call I made, I said, just give me more connections. Give me
Right.
10 more people to call. Can Labs was one of the, places I've called and
Yeah.
that first week. And Sean gave me Joel's number. And then Joel and I met. And Joel said, interesting that you need CBD because we have this plant that we've been, genetically making this plant. It's just hugely high in CBD.
For
I
like
said,
2
we want
years.
it. And then and so we went and met them, went to the grow. We have a picture of Charlotte. The plant's just like foot tall, a big pot, just a little.
the CBD plants
little-
take twice as long to grow than regular.
they grow slow.
Right, with less yield.
Yeah.
So it was like, 1 or 2 or 5. I don't know, just a couple plants. I'm like, we
are
want that. Yeah,
mine.
just keep growing that, and I will find a use for them. If it's not just us, it's going to be a
Sure.
whole bunch of people because this has been miraculous. And we were just a month in when I met them.
Okay.
And then, so I stopped. I didn't buy anymore, make anymore. They just sort of took over her case, and we've been using the Stanley stuff since
Right.
for a year now.
So then, how did they come to the strain name?
Strain name is actually named after Charlotte.
Right. So Charlotte's Web,
Web.
right?
Charlotte's Web, yeah. And there's also another strand that's high CBD called Cigna, which is named after the brother's grandmother who recently passed away too. So those 2 strands, but Charlotte's Web was
Charlotte met Cigna.
Yep.
She yanked out her oxygen, too.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's what we've been using since for a year.
Incredible.
And now other children,
So
A lot more.
talk about, because I thought this was awesome. So talk about your family, and when you brought your mom to the grow, because I know I saw
Oh,
those
yeah.
pictures. I want to know about that. Like when you went to your mom and said, okay, like
I know.
what'd she say?
And they're very conservative. They
Right.
live in Naples, in Florida, and just, very conservative. You know what? I think when you meet Charlotte and you see what she has and you read about it and you see how untreatable this is and is going to be, and it's untreatable at 6 years old, at 5 years old, I think you just don't, at that point, you're anything, whatever
Sure.
works, anything.
Sure.
So now my mom came out and visited the grow, and she sold. So she shares the video. My husband's parents are just, again, very conservative, but all of their friends are on board. And so everyone asks me a lot, did you see a lot of negative reaction to this? And you know what? I haven't. I really haven't.
How can you have?
I know.
I mean, my God.
But it is controversial.
It is controversial.
We
But
do-
seeing the video, there's I don't care about clinical trials. Just look at the
Yeah.
before and after video. I mean,
I know.
Oh, and I remember Charlotte. at the very beginning in meeting you guys. She was in her little wheelchair. She was
know.
drooling. She wasn't talking. She couldn't eat.
Yeah.
Nothing. And now
I haven't used that wheelchair since. Just sitting, collecting dust. I had to buy that wheelchair during that rough time, and I haven't. It just sits in the garage.
That's awesome.
Should donate it to someone.
And she
but
doesn't use the feeding tube anymore either.
Yeah, she has a G tube. She couldn't eat. She couldn't drink water. I mean, for 5 years, we had to syringe it with a big syringe, all her daily water requirements and her food in her mouth. Mix up her food and blend it and syringe it. And she never drank water for years. So we got her a feeding tube and a couple of years of pumping all her water every 2 hours, pumping all her food. She stopped in June. I haven't touched her tube other than she pulls it out. She had to surgically, replace it every month, but I have not put anything in her tube since June. And she sleeps. She's off of all her sleep medicine. She eats, and she's just like focused. So maybe this is a fluke. I know there's been some bad press about the CBD. I think a lot of hospitals are getting questions, and imagine all the people flooding in saying, "Hey, there's this thing with no negative
side effects.
Help us out." Or
Right.
they're in
Where
another
can I get
state
some?
like Texas or Florida where they can't have access. And so the scientific answer from these children's hospitals has been, I'm noticing, is pretty negative. Instead of just saying we don't know.
That's right.
It's been kind of negative, which I don't know. I guess I understand it. What are they going to say? They can't.
Yeah.
They can't. Prescribe.
What they should say is, "Wow, this is amazing. Thank God, and whatever you can use to help your child, great, good for you."
But no, instead we're falsifying.
Yeah,
our
their
evidence.
insurance companies won't let them say that.
Yeah,
Right,
I get it. But at the end of the day, God, can we just run our lives that don't have anything to do with money for 1 minute?
But we'll continue. I mean, like I was saying, even if the seizure control wasn't this great, which it's been amazing, and okay, maybe that's a total fluke. Let's just give them that just for a moment, because there aren't a lot of kids, and it hasn't been tested yet on children. Maybe that's a fluke. The benefits of this, the side effects without the high, with the THC, are amazing. With the eating and the focus, and she's walking and she's taught. I mean, it's new words
learning
constantly.
and
So that's
That video where
undeniable.
she's putting the puzzle pieces in the right places. I mean,
new words every week. And so it's
amazing.
just that part is undeniable, and people will see that as they go, even if they don't have our seizure control. And, again, we were also talking about maybe our seizure control has been so great because she is off of pharmaceuticals. I'm not promoting that everyone come off of that, but who knows?
Right.
Who knows? We just need to know.
And what if you
more.
would have had this at the very beginning? See, that's the
know.
thing. It's like, what if? So
I can't think about that.
Well, of course.
damage
I can't
wouldn't
even
have been
imagine.
done.
But
I know.
again, what you said, it's like, let's stop using this as a last resort because it can't hurt your child. It can't.
Right.
Talk about your other kids. Like, do they kind of understand what's going on?
Yeah. I mean,
Like-
her twin talks about it all the time. She's like, remember when she used to she just sees all night and the oxygen machine was on all night, and Chase just says it every day. Just yesterday, she's saying, remember when she used to seize all the time, and now she's just like, she comes to museums with us, and life is different. We
Laughing.
homeschool. I know, like it affects them. They're not just off at school all day. Just going out and being, we're skiing together as a family.
I
so
saw those
Charlotte's
pictures.
skiing.
I know.
See, that's crazy.
So it's wonderful, and their life has been affected, and so they're
And if anybody wants to see that video of Charlotte skiing, go to realmcaring.com and or
great.
the Facebook Realm of Caring, and it's on there.
the Facebook Run
Yeah.
McCarry. Plus, let's
pretty fun.
talk a little bit about pediatric cannabis therapy.
The Facebook group. Rebecca started a group, Rebecca Brown, and it started with 5-6 of us. Jason, obviously, Rebecca's in Michigan, myself, and a couple other parents who were interested in starting, or just we were all chatting about it. No one wanted to hear about it on the other websites, on the Gervais sites.
Sure.
A lot of these people don't live in legal states, which is
And they're scared.
Yeah, and they can't have access at that point anyway. So we started with a handful of people, and now it's, I don't know what it's at, hundreds.
450 some. Yeah.
And not everyone is using it, but they're all now fighting for their, in their states politically, or they're moving, or they're
Awesome.
watching us, and
some have moved here.
right, some have moved, and
Some have
yeah,
moved,
it's,
right.
it's,
Many,
it's a
many
wonderful
families have
forum.
moved here to get started with Charlotte's web strand.
See,
Strain.
that's incredible.
And it's not a
Wait until
political-
Charlotte. Wait until Charlotte grows up and just figures out. I mean, what happened? Like incredible.
Yeah.
Now
I'm
the
so thankful.
the pediatric, it's called pediatric cannabis therapy. It's on Facebook. If you have a child that is suffering from some kind of disease and you want to know more about cannabis, you're more than welcome to join. This is not a political site. This is not anything other than camaraderie for parents. So I just want to make that clear. And a word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
Indispensary in Colorado Springs is proud to support Overgrow the Radio. With 2 locations in Colorado Springs, Indispensary invites you to discover what true selection and values feel like. Always featuring an incredible array of Stanley Brothers medicine as well as full line of edible and infused products. Indispensary is open from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. 7 days a week, 364 days a year. You owe it to your health and well-being to discover Indispensary. Westside location at 3044 West Colorado and Eastside location at 3031 East Platte in Colorado Springs. Indispensary is your destination for indispensable quality medicine. iVita Wellness is committed to compassionate patient care while providing the highest quality medicine at an affordable price. At iVita Wellness, patients can get top shelf ounces for $150 every day. iVita Wellness also carries pharmaceutical grade pure CO2 oil. iVita Wellness is located in Uptown Denver on 1616 Pearl Street. Open 7 days a week from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. You can reach us at 303-952-9150 or our website at www.ivitawellness.com. iVita Wellness is Denver's compassionate care center.
All right. And we're back. So very exciting. And I just want to say again, and we had basically Mandy on last week to talk about the Realm of Caring, and this is how these kids get their oil, and that you can donate at therealmofcaring.com any amount of money to help out the Realm of Caring. They take care of everything for these kids. They grow the plant, they make it into oil, they get it tested, and they really need your help to be able to keep on doing this. So anything you can do to help is greatly appreciated. If you have any questions, you can go to that website, or you can always contact me at Genifer, Genifer, at cannlabs.com, cannlabs.com. And now we're going to get another mother on the phone and talk to her about her story.
Hello.
Hi, Heather. It's Genifer.
Hi.
How are you?
Great.
Great. So we're live on the radio now, and we just heard about Charlotte and her story.
Yes. I know, and I was thinking just fill the rest of the time with Charlie.
No.
I was listening in. I'm so sad that I couldn't be there to really to hug Paige. Of course, to meet you, but I haven't actually met Paige in person yet.
Oh, you haven't?
We keep trying and trying and trying, and our lives are hectic.
Oh, well, of course. I mean, you know what? We'll have to do this again in a couple of months and have an update. But thank you so much for joining us on the phone. And let's talk about you and your story, starting with, when you were told about Dravet or about your son and everything.
Sure. So Zakai has a different diagnosis. It's called Doza syndrome. And it's another rare, severe form of epilepsy. It's kind of a sister diagnosis. Most of the kids actually remit, their seizures remit about 70%, and then about 30% of the kiddos like Zakai just continue to really, really struggle and have a lot of daily seizures. So Zakai is almost 10, and we very similar story to Paige and Charlotte in that we just exhausted all of the options that are available to him, through pharmaceutical companies as well as, alternative treatments. We've done, everything that we could do short of brain surgery.
Oh my God. And that was a suggestion?
No, it wasn't for us. They've been making that suggestion lately, actually. I know about 3 or 4 families that have had that corpus colostomy done, and so we don't actually go to children's. I think that's the main area that they're promoting that at. So we're still we see it. We're followed here in Colorado Springs by our doctor, so who also signed and made the recommendation for us for CBD.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now, what is the just the main difference between Zakai and Charlotte's?
I would say tonic-clonic wise, that seizure type is definitely more presented in Dravet syndrome. It also presents in Doza syndrome, just not as frequent. So, and also the status as far as, 30-minute and longer seizures, that's uncommon with Doza syndrome. I say what we lack in severity, we make up for in frequency. So Zakai would have, hundreds and thousands of seizures every day, little micro seizures. So not these big whopping tonic-clonics, which he has had, but not like Charlie.
But those little ones can really disrupt the
learning
and the life,
they're
constant.
Right. Yeah, totally. They're incessant. They just don't ever stop. And so, at Zakai's worst was 200 in an hour. So if you can imagine,
God.
The frequency of that. It's just, so no, you can't, you're not learning, you're not, that it's also no quality of life with that many seizures. And then, one thing that Page mentioned is, non-convulsive status. So these are seizures that are firing off in the brain that we don't clinically see. And when they get so close together, then, the kiddos present as, they might stop talking, stop walking, stop eating, that sort of thing.
Oh my God. So some of the time you don't even know until something drastic happens. Okay,
and when you go into the ER for a non-convulsive status event, or your doctor, they usually can't see them. They don't know the kid, and laying there drooling may be normal for that doctor to think that's not a seizure, that's normal. So it's very hard to treat status.
Right, and Zakai had an EEG previous to starting CBD treatment, and an EEG is just an electrical scan of the brain, and it was showing these subclinical seizures we're talking about. This is the most significant thing in my mind, is because I was settled to he was just going to be this way. He was having a subclinical seizure every 10 seconds during the day while he was awake, and 2 to 3 times more frequently than that at night. So, and they're short. They're half a second to a second and a half, but obviously with that frequency, if you can imagine watching TV and someone shutting it off every 10 seconds, for that amount of time, you're not getting much out of your day.
So that's what's unique about Heather, among many things, but that she has that pre-CBD and post-CBD EEG on her son that a lot of us haven't had yet. There's just so few of us.
She got an EEG. You can see it, and then she started.
And then they started it, and then
she started the treatment, and then they did another. And it's,
gone.
What did the doctor say?
Well, we went for the post EEG in October. The nurse called with the results and said there were 5 subclinical seizures, in the 24-hour time period. And I said, wait a minute, what? She said there were 5. And I said, that's what he had in a minute prior. And she's like, there were 5. I'm like, okay. And there were 2 time periods, while he was waking up, one 10-minute and one 20-minute time period of clustering. But other than that, there were no clinical seizures whatsoever. And Zakai has remained seizure-free. His last seizure was October 3rd. And so we just passed. Yeah, thank you. I'm celebrating too. We just passed the 5-month seizure-free mark, and the reason why I'm not. This is just the amazing power of CBD, and I don't understand what neuroprotectant means, but why I'm not in the studio today is because Zakai is really sick and fever and vomiting and really elevated heart rate, and so I wasn't comfortable, obviously, to come in, but he has not had one clinical seizure through this whole spell.
Even through being sick, right. So his body obviously is sick right now. So you'd think that it might
Doesn't that cause
might
them to
affect
usually
that.
get more or to
Oh,
have seizures
Charlotte
when
will-
they're sick?
Well, the febrile seizures, I'm sure Zakai, does he have the febrile seizures?
Yeah, I mean, definitely.
But we'll have sickness without even the febrile seizure. She'll just be sick and have the seizure, maybe from the inflammation of the body
Right.
fighting it off. But
Yeah, that's a huge
raises
trigger.
Well, I don't know if Zakai's experienced this. I think maybe not on the level of Charlotte, but that's the other thing. Charlotte has not been sick in a year. She had pneumonia, I think it was 9 times.
Because I know it helps your
last
immune
year.
system too.
I
do.
am telling you, there is
that's awesome.
something weird. There's no way this is a fluke.
Let me say this though. I know we're giving all kudos to CBD, but again, I truly believe that cannabis works because it's an entourage effect between all the cannabinoids. This happens to be strains with high CBD, but I
low
just
THC.
and low
THC.
THC.
And THC is aiding in epilepsy.
Right.
Yeah.
But Zakai, so tell me what went through your mind or how you found CBD, and had you been a cannabis user? I mean, what was your experience?
No, I hadn't been. And it was basically just out of necessity. And my husband wasn't as gung-ho, as
Right.
as Paige's husband was. Like, he didn't say, let's go for it. It took a little bit of convincing, but it was basically just out of necessity. I also had seen Jason and Jaden's story, a year probably before we started. And kind of, you hear these things and you put it in your back pocket. I'm going to
Sure.
research that. I'm going to look into that a little bit more if we continue, on this decline.
Right.
And so I had was definitely interested in looking at that more. But 17 treatments. To give you statistics, with epilepsy, after 2 failed medications, you have about a 12% chance to find another pharmaceutical that will work. After 4 failed medications, you have 0.8, a decimal point in front of the 8, to find, a medication or a med combo that will work. That's not to say it doesn't happen. It's just,
Not
like
likely.
Paige said, these are intractable cases. They're very medication resistant. And so, for us to be almost a decade down this path and to find something that works is incredible.
You have your life back. He has his life back. Your family has their life back. You've never seen him like you see him right now, right?
No, and
Yeah.
he's learning, and he's engaged, and he's funny. And it's just, it's really great. It's really great to just see. It's weird. Like we're trying to get used to it.
I'm sure. Now, does he understand that?
No,
He doesn't understand.
no. I
Yeah.
mean, developmentally, I don't. He, doesn't really understand even that he has a seizure disorder.
Got
We
it.
talk about it,
Sure.
but I don't really think he even really knows, what that is. So no, he doesn't really get it. And when we first started, I would like to mention,
Sure.
because we are talking about all the positive effects, and we did see some pretty major behavior issues and some violent outbursts and those sorts of things, which actually we discovered was what's called forced normalization. So just a heads up for other parents who may be trying it, if they're seeing some of those things, it's normal, especially if your EEG's getting regular.
Really?
It's like they're
So
absorbing
why?
more information.
Oh, so they're
is
shocked, kind
coming
of,
in.
right? Like they.
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
And they kind of deem that forced normalization, they kind of call it a psychosis. The brain never functioned normally. And so now that it is,
That
not
makes
quite sure
sense.
how to react. And that took us about 3 months to even out.
It's like the TV's on louder and all the time.
Sure. So, oh my God, probably a lot going on in your brain too. I can
It's like
imagine that you're like,
overstimulation.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Paige, was it you or was it Heather that was kind of explaining it? Like somebody's watching a movie, and then, like, if it was a normal person, they get up, they go to the bathroom, come back, they don't know what happened.
Right.
Probably Heather.
Was it Heather? Was it you?
Yeah, that's basically how I describe it. Or if you're watching TV and someone turns it off, over and over and over again. At the
Right.
end, you've got a little bit of a gist of the plot, but you really don't know what happened.
Oh,
that
I
entire time.
see.
Yeah.
Right. And what would be something you'd like to share with other parents that are skeptical, obviously?
And I can actually really understand that, because if I didn't have a chance to talk with Jason and talk with Paige and know those families and know those syndromes, I'd say, they're just some, some parents, whatever, with their own agenda.
They're just stoned.
They're just making it up.
I can understand the skepticism,
Sure,
I can understand that, but I think,
right.
they owe it to their kiddos to at least investigate and do what they're comfortable with. I'm not anti-pharma. I think that works sometimes. I just don't think it works all the time. And, when you're out of options, this is potentially a very safe and effective option that they should try.
And despite, having the Stanleys helping out Zakai and Charlotte, you're still out there on your own in the world. Your doctor isn't holding your hand through this. Your neurologist, I should say.
No.
You have to have that entrepreneurial spirit.
Sure.
to be that person to try it. So
and I've always said, I don't need any more friends. I don't need anyone to agree or even understand what we're doing. This has been life-changing for us.
Life-changing, yeah.
After you guys meet.
What, that is hilarious. What, have you got any, I know Paige says she hasn't really experienced any negativity. How about you, from your family, your friends?
Not to my face.
Right.
Oh, no.
Everybody's been overwhelmingly supportive to me. I have heard through family a few people who questioned, or said, how's that, pot going, or, these kind of whatever comments. And my family came to the rescue and defended. So, yeah.
And that's, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, just overall, people know what he's been through, and they're super excited that he's doing so well.
But it was like Rebecca said online. It was like the keto diet 13 years ago. You know what I mean? We were crazy for trying this high-fat diet to stop seizures. That now is the therapy for Dravet, and Dosa probably also. It's like the main thing you try very young. This is going to be that, and the naysayers will be the controversial ones, and we will be the normal, rational
Unfortunately,
ones.
the naysayers are going to lose some kids.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's really sad. We're going to find out years down the line when these people have to have a clinical trial, that it's going to, and let's go back to that. Clinical trials, FDA. How many times have you seen drugs get pulled off the market? I just saw an ad saying if you've taken antidepressants during pregnancy and you've had birth defects, it's sick to my stomach. And you can't die from it, and it has barely any, if any, side effects, because like you said, these kids are sick. They don't eat. This stimulates their appetite. I don't know. It's just incredible. But anyway, Pediatric Cannabis Therapy on Facebook. And you guys have been so great on the Facebook. I know that there's a ton of parents getting on there, and they're always skeptical at first. Actually, I've seen some of them where you're right. They're to the end of the line, and they're just like, please help me, you know? Yeah. So what's the worst thing that's happened then during this whole thing?
Really, I would say it's more of an internal issue of the not really knowing. I mean, as far as Zakai physically, there hasn't really been a worse thing. There was those first 3 months of behavior, but I mean, we deal with behavior anyway.
Right.
So that wasn't really, a big, huge deterrent for us. Really, I can't think of any negative.
Just my point.
I just want to add something
please,
from
Mandy.
Getting to know them pretty well. If you saw Zakai now, there's no way you would be able to tell there was anything wrong with him. The way he talks, the way he plays, the way he does everything, he looks like a normal kid, acts like a normal kid.
It's awesome.
It is.
And when you say what is the most negative, all I can think, and not speaking for you, Heather, is just I can't even. It's just I'm so glad I am here where we are right now. It may end tomorrow. It may end in a year. I mean, it may never. This may keep going. But I am so thankful. And you go on these websites and you support groups and you read about all the stuff everyone's gone through. You've been there. You've gone through those same things. And it's just so. I am just overwhelmingly thankful. There's nothing. Yeah. Nowhere else I would rather be in the whole retrospect, hindsight of our life. I can't imagine not. I just want this for everybody.
I know, and I do too. And you know, Heather, I was saying before that every time that people ask me, well, why do you do what you do? Like, what's important about it? And my answer is these kids with seizure disorders. I mean, that is all-time driving, because I tell you what, it's been a really hard road testing in this industry, and just seeing kids and meeting people, you know, and the camaraderie around this has just, I mean, honestly, has given me a purpose that I've never had before in a job career. It's been amazing. Fantastic.
That's awesome.
You know, and thank you, Jennifer, because if it weren't for, you know, your company, I wouldn't be comfortable.
Right.
Thank you.
At all.
What would we be doing?
I mean,
We
I know
wouldn't have a
exactly what
clue.
I'm putting in Zakai.
We would not have a clue what we were doing. And I do think that the systematic nature of dosing is, you know, I think it affects them, Heather, that we know what we're giving and we're consistent.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and you know what is or isn't working.
What if we didn't know?
Right.
No,
and thank you so much, and I really mean that, and I can't wait to meet you, and it's just been an incredible journey, and I know that we all want to start a community here and have all parents move here and, you know, get all these kids help, so thank you so much for coming on the radio show and sharing your story. And I definitely want to have you in the studio in a couple months so we can, you know, continue with these kids and their story.
You bet. Thanks.
All right.
Bye, Heather.
Bye, Heather.
Love you guys.
Love you.
So anyway, oh God, every time I talk about this, I know I talk about this a lot with my family, and everybody I know, and you know, they're still skeptical, and that's fine, but after you just meet people like this, and I don't have kids, but I can't even imagine if I had a kid that was sick like this. So anyway, with that, Jill, what are our questions for the contest?
We actually have some easy ones today.
Ooh, easy.
So the first one's a gimme. It's for our sponsors. Who are the sponsors providing the prizes for the Cannabis Cup contest?
Good one.
And then 2 is, why don't most epilepsy medications work with Dravet syndrome?
Ooh, that was a pretty good one.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then 3 is, what is Zakai's form of epilepsy called? And those are 3 questions.
Do you want me to answer those like last time?
No, you're not answer.
I didn't know they did a questionnaire at the end,
like,
so
let me
she's
answer
saying it
that.
and I'm answering them.
Well, that's okay. It was the end of the show, so they would have had to listen to get there anyway.
See, yeah, that's the point. It's like we want people to be learning stuff from this. Now, again, Mandy, please talk about the realm of carrying the information and how people can donate and help.
First off, I want to talk about the webpage. Is undergoing, again, some changes. Okay. Anybody who needs to get a hold of anybody at the Realm, you can call 888-995-THE-REALM. And extension 700 is me, or 701. Heather Jackson just came on board with me, who we just
Which
spoke
is her
with.
from?
Yep.
Awesome.
She has been amazing. She's very educated about 501c3s. So very, very lucky and happy to have her on board.
Okay. And they can donate online?
They can donate online at the webpage.
Okay.
Or they can email at realmofcaring@gmail.com.
Okay, great.
And also got some good news yesterday I wanted to share. I got a call from a cancer patient. She's kind of in her mid-60s, and she has been taking the oil for a little over 6 months, and she is now cancer-free.
Oh, my God.
So-
What kind of cancer?
Breast.
Breast cancer.
Mm-hmm.
That's unbelievable.
Share that for you. everybody. It's awesome.
And these stories and more are why you want to donate at therealmofcaring.com. Also, I know that the Realm needs website help. If anybody out there builds websites and can help, that would be greatly appreciated. And then Paige, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Please, thank you. I know you've shared your story, and we just continue to put it out there. I just want everybody that even, all these parents to hear this and really be able to do this. And there's
with an
18
open
medical
mind.
states. There's 18 medical states right now. If you don't happen to be in one, I know that people would do anything for their children. Colorado is definitely the furthest forward for these kind of strains and ratios of CBD to THC. So again, you can always email me at jennifer@canlabs.com, realmofcaring.com, pediatric Facebook or pediatric cannabis therapy Facebook group, and then always canlabs.com. So thank you so much for coming on, ladies.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for doing everything you do.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Jill.
We couldn't do it without you guys.
I didn't do much today, so it was easy
All right, and we'll
for
see
me.
you next week to talk about, what are we talking about, Jill? Because I'll be in Boston.
I am going solo, and we're talking about hemp and the hemp remediation project and what's developing with hemp because of Amendment 64. So we're going to talk about a genetic cousin to marijuana.
Fantastic.
Georgia's show. Don't forget about Georgia's show. Georgia's show coming on at 6 tonight.
And Georgia has her show coming on at 6 tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in to iCannabisRadio.com.